Hello, everybody, and welcome to Katrina Rasbold and Friends. And I'm so honored today because if I had a mentor who never knew that they were my mentor, it would be this person right here, John Beckett. If you have ever taken one of my classes, especially any class that I taught, of which, it's kind of my niche of uncrossing, you have heard quotes that I have highlighted by John Beckett. And John, a couple of them I want to give you real quick, just going in, that I've used probably 100 times since I heard them. And when I heard them was in your speech at Pantheacon or presentation about the dark side of Druidism. Uh-huh. And it was, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, but remember to wash your hands. The other one was, don't do anything to a person magically that you wouldn't do to them mundanely. And both of those just cut to the heart of that, the type of magic that we were talking about and working with. And I just appreciated that so much. So everybody, this is John Beckett, and I'm so happy he's here. John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to now?
Thank you for that kind introduction. And if I'm remembering correctly, that Pantheacon presentation was 2016. So that's a long time ago now. So I'm glad you remember that. My name is John Beckett. I am a Druid in the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. I'm a member of ADF. I'm a member of the Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans. My local group is Denton Cups here in Denton, Texas. Been a member there since '03. Served a long time as an officer and stepped down to let some other people have a turn at driving the bus, and then COVID happened and I got kind of pulled into not driving the bus, but certainly doing more than I had intended to. But it's been good. It's a good local group, good people, good friends. I keep a blog on Patheos, the largest multi-faith religion website in the world, called Under the Ancient Oaks. I used to blog 3 times a week every week, and now it's 2 times a week when I'm doing well. But I've been blogging since 2008, so there's a couple of thousand blog posts on there for you to go back and see what I've had to say about pretty much any topic in the pagan world. Under the Ancient Oaks is also the name of my teaching site, undertheancientoaks.com. This is where I teach online classes. I'm currently teaching a class called Unpacking Your Religious Baggage So You Can Live a Magical Life. And it's as with everything I write, it comes out of my own experience of growing up in a fundamentalist Protestant church and getting away when I became an adult, but not really getting away because all those ideas were still floating around my head and I had to get them out. And that took me a long time. And I'm trying to help people not take as long to do that as I did.
John, regarding that, I recently saw a quote, and I've got to be honest, I don't know if you said it or not, but it sounded like you, and in my head, you said it. And it was, I don't come at this as a pagan. I come at this as a grieving Christian or a disenchanted Christian. And I thought that was really profound. Now, I also was raised, evangelical, evangelical Christian. My grandmother was a Pilgrim Holiness minister. And boy, could that woman get down. She was very serious about what she did. And so there was that permeation in my household. And also my parents, on the other hand, were Baptist. And so we went to a lot of Baptist and Church of God churches and that sort of thing. So it was a big part of our life. And yes, you are absolutely correct that shaking off that cloak doesn't happen just with a switch of labels or a decision that that's not who you're going to be anymore. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's not my quote, but I certainly sympathize with whoever said it. Um, I I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had grown up in a instead of a little fundamentalist Baptist church, if I had grown up in a liberal and inclusive and mystical Episcopalian church. Um, how might that have filled my my spiritual needs? And every time I say that, my good friend Cynthia Talbot, who's the current leader of Benton Cups, just puts her fingers up like this, like antlers, and reminds me that a certain forest god has had his eye on me for a very long time, and I think I would have found my way here eventually. Uh,
Yeah,
I had-
I think I know who that is.
but, but it would have certainly been a more pleasant experience growing up.
I totally understand that. And it's interesting how those formative beliefs creep into the thinking that you don't always question in a self audit. And it's almost as though somebody has to bring them to your attention, or you have to really just spontaneously recognize the programming that's still there. Amazing.
I mean, so I could tell from a very early age that what I was being taught wasn't right. Um, but I didn't have the breadth, the breadth of knowledge or the depth of experience to understand why it wasn't right, and what other options there were out there. I mean, everybody I knew was a Baptist or a Methodist, and had some cousins who were Catholic, and well, they're okay. They're not quite the same, but they're still Christians, and that's it. I when I went away to college, my parents could no longer drag me to church every Sunday. Um, I tried to be a liberal Christian. I tried to be a Methodist. I should say United Methodist now that the Methodist Church is split. The United Methodists are affirming the humanity of everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, and some other Methodists aren't. So my wife is still a Methodist, and I just say she's a United Methodist. So they're good people, and I really I felt loved, I felt supported, but it didn't speak to my soul.
And it really has to.
It does.
It does.
It
I mean,
does.
that's just it.
And then um I discovered paganism. I met a witch for the first time, and um, he explained Wicca to me. And now here's this is what I've been looking for. Here's a religion that says there's a goddess as well as a god, that says nature isn't fallen, nature is sacred, and oh, by the way, magic is real. And this is exactly what I had been looking for. And I dove in and I started buying books and buying magical tools and practicing and studying, and I went nowhere for 8 years because I hadn't dealt with the baggage from that fundamentalist upbringing. And every time I would start to get a little bit of depth, something in the back was saying, what if they're wrong? What if you really are going to hell now?
Mm.
And I told myself, well, I'm just trying to learn some secular magic. And well, there was just no power in that either. Now I have some pagan friends who that's what they do is secular magic. That's fine. Didn't work for me. And Thanksgiving night 2001, I had an epiphany. And I'm still not sure who it was, but it was like about 4 or 5 different gods and goddesses were just screaming at me, get serious or move on. quit dabbling. And I didn't know exactly what get serious meant, but I could tell what would happen. I knew what would happen if I kept doing what I had been doing. And I didn't like I didn't like where that was taking me. And so I got serious, and I started reading, and I started meditating, and I found Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth. And today I have some issues with Joseph Campbell. I think his monomyth is not helpful, but at the time he was exactly what I needed. And I finally started dealing with my religious baggage, and um, I read some liberal Christians and got a different view of Christianity. Learned a lot of things they didn't teach me in Baptist Sunday school. Um, I read some Jewish authors and got a whole different perspective on the Old Testament. I read some Buddhist authors and got a whole different perspective on religion. And I've always known that religion is ultimately uncertain. We can't know. We can't know. We're limited humans. Um, the people who say we have the truth, no, you're lying to yourself. You may have some good and helpful ideas. You may have some good and helpful spiritual practices. You may actually have an insight into the inner workings of life in the universe. You don't have the whole picture. Nobody does. And the more I worked through this, the more I read, the more I studied, the more I practiced, the more it became obvious that it wasn't about finding the right path. It was about finding the right path for me. And yeah, um, went to Denton Cups looking for a group. Went there for MBOK 2003, just going to check it out. And I never left. Um, Another year later, I needed some training, and so I joined OBOD and worked through their three grades of Bard, Ovate, and Druid. Had some questions I wanted to work through in public, and I started a blog in 2008, and it's still going on. Had some people tell me that I ought to write a book, and yeah, and then we've got the path of paganism and paganism in depth, and teaching classes and still doing some of the local work, and getting ready to lead Denton Cup Samhain ritual this year. So it's been a long journey. It's been a fun journey. It's been a lot of work. Um, and if I do nothing else in this life other than show people that yes, you can escape from the toxic religion from your childhood, and you can leave it behind and truly leave it behind and move on to whatever it is that calls to you, that speaks to your soul, that you feel like is if not true, then closer to true. If I can help people do that, then I'm going to be happy.
That's a wonderful ambition, truly. And you mentioned Denton Cups, and I saw something that was about where another person had written about the message that you just gave to the fellowship, and they said that it was on enacting our individual will in times where our ethical integrity cannot accept what we cannot change. And I thought, what a powerful message that sentence is. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that.
The service may still be on the Denton UU YouTube channel. They've only got so much space, so they rotate them on. So it may be gone now. Certainly almost certainly be gone by the time that that this is published. But the text of the sermon is on my blog. So
Outstanding.
if you want to read it, it'll be there indefinitely.
That is a position that is so hard to be in right now. And I love that you've published the workaround. And I'm excited to see that. So thank you for that. And one of the things I admire most about you, and really, I know it sounds like I'm just this gratuitous admiration society, but you've just affected my life in some really strong ways. And one of the things I admire most about you, John, is that you are, after all the years that you have been a public writer, a content creator, a presenter at multiple cons, you've been a very public pagan, but you are still, as nearly as I can tell, universally respected and appreciated, and your voice is something that people aren't arguing with, and they're not taking as a personal contention. And sure, there might have been some along the way that I missed, but overall, when we look at some of the prominent pagan voices that are out there, there always, myself included, there always seems to be this little nest of contention and this little um, burr under the saddle over here about something that was said, but you just always seem to navigate those waters so well.
No, thank you so much. There was some nastiness going on around 2015, 2016, and if you're interested, a little bit of Googling, a little bit of searching my blog can turn it up. But you know, I'm I have a mission, I have an assignment. I'm a sworn priest of Cernunnos. I'm a sworn priest of Danu. I'm a sworn druid of the Morrigan. I work for them. Um, they don't have time for silly personal interpersonal conflicts. Um, I've got work to do, and part of this, I think, I didn't develop this. I didn't begin this public presence until after I was 40, and so I'm. It was easier for me to just say, "All right, well, you don't like it. You can go do something that you don't have to like it. I'm going to do what I'm going to do." Um, don't always succeed, but I try to keep my focus on the work that I'm here to do and the work that themselves have set in front of me.
I think that's the only way that we can, I guess, authentically present in the world and be, as they say, in the world, but not of it, and not get content.
There's another Christian cultural influence.
There are certainly plenty of those, but just that idea of walking in the world in a different way than how we grew up and how it was modeled to us, and that there are more worlds out there in this world that we don't see. It's
It's
such a
it's it's
phenomenal realization when that comes.
it's living intentionally. It's living your way. You know, if I'm going to be wrong, I'm going to be wrong my because I made a mistake, not because I followed somebody else who told me what to think.
I really think that's the bottom line on it all. And so often when I'm talking to people, I just want to ask them, what is your genesis for that thought or that belief, or did someone tell you to believe that?
Because
And
so many of us, and maybe all of us, I mean, when we're 3 or 4 or 5 years old, we hear these stories and we just assume they're true because that's what you do when you're 3 or 4 or 5 years old. And it it gets into our psyche, it gets into our soul. The Jesuits have a saying, "Give me the boy until he is 7, and I will give you the man."
oh,
Um, those things that those stories were, especially the stories, the stories, the songs, the experiences, those things that we heard again 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, those stay with us unless we actively work to remove them.
what's interesting about that is I kind of went in a little bit of a different direction, in that I just pushed so far away from anything that had been, or thought I did, from anything that had been part of my Christian upbringing. It took me a while to come back around and say, and you were talking about things we heard when we were 6 or when we were 7, to come back and around and say, you know what? Those gospel songs that I grew up on, that I heard all the time, they still mean something to me. They still evoke a feeling in me of being close to divinity. But that divinity looks different now. So that integration of letting that be okay was really, even letting myself say, I'm going to pray about that, was really hard for a long time.
Yeah. I had to make a clean break. Um, I did not leave, as some fundamentalists have accused me. I did not leave angry. I did not leave the church angry. Certainly angry about something about the way that I was treated, and other people were treated worse. But yeah, I wasn't running away. I was trying to find what it is that spoke to my soul. What it is. I couldn't handle being told I had to believe something that I couldn't honestly believe. So, but I had to make a clean break. I had to just completely divorce myself from Christian books and church services and songs and anything like that, because I needed to heal, and I needed to rebuild myself as a pagan, as a polytheist, as an animist. And when I was able to rebuild that foundation and give those tentacles time to wither and die, now I can go back and appreciate the good. I can go, I've been to Europe and been through some of the beautiful old cathedrals, and they're just amazing places. Um, it's not my religion, but I can certainly appreciate the beauty and the devotion of the people who created them.
Oh, certainly. It took me around 25 years before I could even revisit those ideas and those with any amount of integrity intact on my part,
Yeah.
so that I felt I could walk in there in my truth and not turn into that 7-year-old again. So, John, what do you think happens to you when you die?
Get a good drink of water before we start here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the big questions of life. This is something that people have wondered about and speculated about for at least as long as we've been human. And we don't know a whole lot more about it today than our earliest human ancestors did 200,000 years ago. We know a little bit. I am convinced that we live on. And that's a phrase I use a lot in UU circles, because it's non-theistic, and it means you can interpret in several different ways. I don't believe this one world is the end. I don't think anybody knows. I question if we can know, just as humans with brilliant brains that are brilliant but still finite. That said, based on lore, based on firsthand experiences, based on reading other people's experiences, based on my own ecstatic experiences, my own experiences of the gods and ancestors, I believe that when we die, our soul, the essence of who and what we are, that is currently housed inside the body, leaves the body and returns to the other world, the land of the gods and ancestors. I hold a model that I would say is vaguely Celtic, But it's really my own internal model of how things are. I expect that when I die, that somebody will come for me.
Mm.
I don't know if it will be one of the gods who I've worked so closely for and with for all these years, or if it will be one of my ancestors or somebody else. I think somebody will come for me. I think I know the way. I kind of know the way because I've been there in journeying, in ritual, um, in meditation. So I got an idea where I'm going. But I think somebody's going to come to make sure I don't get too worried about finding the way. Um, I do not expect any sort of judgment. I do think there will be some sort of review, um, as in this is what I did well. This is what I did not so well. Um, this is what I kind of screwed up. Um, and I think I will spend some time in the other world, um, reviewing this life and resting and doing the things that we can't do over here. There's things we do here that we can't do there because here we have a body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't eat and drink and have all those sensual experiences as a spirit. I need a body for that. I've got the body now. Enjoy the body. Um, but there's also some things over there that when I'm no longer limited by a body, I will be able to do. Not quite sure what those are, but I expect that there will be some. And then after a certain amount of time, and I don't know how long that is, um, maybe a few years, maybe a few decades, maybe a few centuries. I don't know. Um, I expect to be reborn into this world. And I think I get some say in where I where I come back. I don't think I get to program everything. The people who says, "Oh, everything you're doing is something you agreed to do before you came into this world." No, that's toxic. That's victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I think I can. I think I will be able to. I'd like this. I'd like not that. These are the things I want to work. And then I come back here to continue the work that the work of my soul. And that goes on until it doesn't.
Do you think we choose to come back or we're compelled to come back or both?
Both. Both. I think I I chose this life. Um the one before, and I have past life memories. I put a little bit of stock in them. I don't put a lot of stock in them. Certainly, they don't form my identity. They help me understand why I am the way I am. But the fact that truly believe I was a druid in ancient Ireland, um, does that does that mean anything here? No, it means I've got to be a good druid here. Yeah, I think so. I think we have a chance. I think we can choose to come back. I think there's times when somebody bigger than us says, You there now."
Who in your life was especially influential to you in a positive way? And I frame it that way because so many people in our life influence us through trauma or by modeling behaviors we don't want to emulate. Who influenced you positively?
So I'm gonna get completely away from religion and spirituality and talk about somebody in my professional career whose name I have forgotten, but I can still see his face. when I was in between my sophomore and junior years in college, I had a summer internship at this big chemical plant in Tennessee. I'm an industrial engineer. Um, it was a summer job, summer engineering job, sponsored by this big company who's not relevant to this anyway. I was attached to a an engineering model shop, and when they were trying to figure when the engineers, the chemical engineers, were trying to figure out how they were going to um, process these new materials that they were making, they had to start out on a small scale. And so we had a couple of engineers, we had a draftsman, we had a couple of mechanics who would then go out and build things. Well, I'm here that summer and doing my thing and learning a little bit of, mainly learning how to get up and go to work in the morning. Um, and I see one of the mechanics is filling out a form for tuition reimbursement. He said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, no, I'm taking. I'm the company offers tuition reimbursement, so I'm taking advantage of that, and I'm getting a degree in economics." Well, that's interesting. So, are you gonna go into finance when you graduate? You're gonna get you look for a job in management? And he said, "Nope, I'm going to be an educated mechanic." And that made such an impression on me. Here's this person who does what he does, again, very skilled mechanic, um, makes a good living, union wages, um, but he still wants to keep learning. He wants to improve his mind. He wants to learn more about the world around him, and not so that he can get a better paying job, but just so knowledge for the sake of knowledge, learning for the sake of learning. And I have always remembered that and always respected it. And I've done this. I've done similar things on the on the side of religion and spirituality. I um, I've got a degree in engineering. I've got a master's in business. When I was in college, the English majors called us barbarian engineers. With all of the reading I've done in religion and psychology and philosophy and history and anthropology and archaeology, I've probably got enough for at least one master's degree in the liberal arts, and maybe more than that. Um, and I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that, but I've got the education because I've kept educating myself as as I've moved through life. So yeah, I still, again, I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. But I can still see his face. Actually, nice guy, very skilled mechanic, and curious man. And I've tried to emulate that in my own way.
Isn't it funny that he might not even remember that conversation?
He probably wouldn't.
Isn't that something? So, as you look now, this is a more interesting question for people like you and like me who are of a particular age, as opposed to when I interview somebody who's 30. When you look back on your life, what do you see that you feel the most proud of? What is it that you can look at and say, you know what, I really did something there and I feel good about that?
So there is, it would be hard to pick one thing. Um, if you want the greatest accomplishment of my life, it's getting out of the fundamentalist church, exercising the toxic religion from my soul, becoming a pagan, a druid, um, somebody you want to talk to. Um, and I go back, and if I could tell that little 8-year-old boy sitting in the pew in the Baptist church, mentally screaming at the preacher, "This is going to work out okay." um, that's my biggest that is my biggest accomplishment, the thing I'm most proud of. At the same time, I am separately, although it's related, but separately, I'm proud that I've written 2 books, and I think I got at least one more book in me. I've got to wind down the day job so I can become a full-time druid. Um, when I was younger, um, I ran 2 marathons, and for a little boy who was I was never the last one picked for teams at recess. I was like the second from last. Um, I was never an athlete in a place and time where boys were supposed to be athletes, and I always felt bad about that, even as an adult. And then in my 30s, I just started running to try to lose a little weight, and all of a sudden I'm running 5Ks and 10Ks, and then I ran a marathon, and then I ran another one, and then I got hurt and I don't run anymore. But part of me needed to be an athlete, and I did. Um, I am, I grew up in my father was a union railroad worker. My mother worked part-time as an airbrush artist. We weren't poor, um, but we weren't far from it. I had everything I needed and not a lot more. And I took that foundation and got an engineering degree, got a master's in business, have worked a professional job for 40 years. I'm getting ready to retire, and I'm not going to be able to retire like the people you see in the financial services commercials. I don't have that kind of money, but I'm going to be able to retire. And from starting from not zero, but from a very low point, and building, you know, building a good life. And so that's a bunch of stuff in some different fields, but I'm proud of all of that. Um, as you've guessed, I'm a builder. I'm a builder. I like to build things, um, and I built a professional career. I built a spiritual life. Um, I built a body, and then it got hurt, and that's another story. But yeah, I've built some things, and I'm very proud of that.
I think those are all wonderful, wonderful things to be proud of. I hear you on the retirement thing. I hadn't even considered that when I was thinking about what I was proud of. And, Eric and I decided in 2022, if we're very, very frugal, we can do this and we can have our time be our own. And we just made the jump.
I've got to get. I'm 63. I've got to get to 65 so I can get Medicare. I can
That
handle
is,
the
yeah,
I can handle the living expenses. I can't handle the living expenses plus health insurance.
because we were self-employed, we didn't have that anyway. So like, hey, let's just go enjoy our time and not have medical
But
insurance or good medical
yeah,
insurance, I guess I would
but
say.
yeah, I'm getting there.
So am I. I have one more year and I can collect Medicare. One more year. So, what movie or podcast or book or TV show are you into lately?
This is October. This is spooky season.
I
I have
saw
a
your post.
I have a lifelong love of horror movies, but a particular kind of horror movies. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be grossed out. I want to be fascinated. Um, I like movies with vampires and witches and castles and dark, stormy nights. Yes, I recently posted my 10 horror movie
Mhm.
recommendations that most people probably haven't heard of. I've been going through a lot of B movies and C movies and trying to find new stuff. And I think I've pretty much got all the good stuff. And I'm as we moving into October, I'm going back and just okay. I'm not trying to dig up something new anymore. I'm going to go enjoy my favorites, things like Bram Stoker's Dracula, um, the Universal horror movies, Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy and the Wolfman, the Hammer horror movies, the Dracula and the Frankenstein. They did Mummy movies. Um, they did some other they did some other related type horror movies. Um, my interest tops out at a somewhere in the late 70s. Oh, 70s. 1979 Dracula with Frank Langella. Uh, that's that's another favorite. So yeah, I'm looking for that classic horror, the the castles and the capes and the magic and yeah, I'm really enjoying those right now.
Have you seen House of the Long Shadows?
I have not.
It's a very interesting, it's kind of a campy horror movie, but it has Vincent Price and Christopher Lee and get ready for this, Desi Arnaz Jr.
Oh, I may have. I need to check. I may have seen that.
It's an older movie.
It's
I
an. Oh,
saw it.
I probably have, but I haven't. I don't think I've seen it recently. I'll
It
have to
was
check into it.
wonderful. I thought of that as you were mentioning some of your films that you enjoy. So we've we've talked about your class that you have going on. Um, I saw that there was one starting September 7th. Is that a serialized class or
Yes.
okay, that's what
Yes,
I
it
thought.
is a it started then. It's an 8-week class where I've got module 6 loaded to go out in the morning. The good news on my all of my classes are they are all on demand. So
Oh,
if you
oh, I see.
don't get if you when I first started doing that, I kept running into all these classes from people I wanted to take classes from, and I could never fit match their schedule up to mine. I said, I'm going to do this asynchronously. I'm going to do this on demand. So yeah, they come out once a week, but then they're there. So if you want to start tonight, um, sign up. You go back, and the videos are all there. The readings are all there. You pick it up wherever you want. Because and let's face it, nobody works these things at the same pace anyway. Um,
So
so
we will
so yeah,
those are,
you've got a
go ahead, I'm
chance
sorry.
to so yeah, it started in September, but if you want to start it now, it's there.
So, for any of you who are interested in that, we will put links to that in the description. We will also have links to John's blog on Patheos Pagan and links to under the sacred, under the ancient oaks. I'm
Under
sorry,
the
under the
ancient oaks,
ancient
yes.
oaks. And is there anything else that you would like to promote and to share with our audience?
That's the big thing is that unpacking your religious baggage class. I didn't have as large a turnout for this class as I was certainly not as much as I was hoping for. I'm not sure what I expected. Um, I've had a lot of people who've taken classes with me before who said, "This looks interesting. I don't think I need it."
Mm.
And some of them I know don't need this class. They've done this work, or they grew up in a healthy religious environment and they don't have the baggage I had. I also know there's some other people who say, "Oh, I don't need that," and I'm not sure they're being honest with themselves.
Hmm.
Um, you know, if if you've got bad memories, if you've had bad experiences, if thoughts of if thoughts from an old religion are keeping you from fully embracing your new religion, you probably need to unpack your religious baggage, whether you do it with my class or you go through the Christian deconstructing that's popular right now in some Christian circles, or whatever. You probably need to examine that.
So, another question that is very different depending on whether I'm interviewing a person my age or a person the age of my 40-year-old kids is, do you have anything left on your bucket list that you want to accomplish or experience before this life's done?
I've got a couple more places I'd like to visit. Um, I'm hoping to write at least one more book, maybe two. Um, if I got hit by a beer truck tomorrow, I could say, I had a good life, I accomplished a lot, I'm satisfied. At the same time, I've got, um, the actuarial tables say I've got a 50-50 chance of making it to 90. A lot of stuff I can do between now and 90. Um, a lot more writing I can do. A lot more practice I can do. Um, yeah, just there's always something else to learn. There's always something else to do. There's always somebody else to meet. Um, I'm I've really tried. I didn't travel much when I was younger because I
Mm.
didn't have the money. Um, and even when I did, I felt bad about spending it on travel. But really, since my early 40s, I've tried to. That's the one place I spend money. I'm driving um, a very nice 6-year old car. Um, I'm my my house payment my house payment is less than most people's rent. Part of that's because I bought it a long time ago, but I don't. I won't say I live frugally, but I don't waste money. The one place I spend money is travel. And again, there's more places I want to go, more places on my list, but if I don't get to them for some reason, that's okay. Um, Mainly I've got more living to do, and I look forward to when I can live without being tied to a day job.
That's a real nice place to be. Just that idea that I'm okay. I did what I needed to do, but if I'm still going to be here, I'm going to have fun while I'm here. So, what's your favorite part of the day?
Again, I can't give you a straight answer for that. My favorite part of the day is the early evening, just
Mm.
after it gets good and dark. That's when I like to be outside. That's when I like to go places. Um, that's the glamorous time. That's um, the time to be out doing things. Um, that said, my most productive time is from probably around 8:30 to 11, whether I'm at my paying job or if I'm home working or doing whatever. That's probably my most productive time. And something I learned when I went back when I was running and I was doing long runs, and I would get out on a Sunday morning, and I would start with it still full dark, and I would take off on a long run, and then watch the just keep running as the sun started to come up and it got brighter and brighter and brighter, and I began in full darkness and I ended in bright sunlight. Still do that to a lesser extent now that I'm walking, and that's just a magical experience, and I still enjoy that. So yeah, three. I like the evening. I'm most productive in mid morning, and that full dark to full sun is just magical.
So, if you were to think of somebody or a group of people or just the world in general or yourself, even, who would you like to send some love to right now?
So that's a hard question. Um, there's no one in my immediate circle that is in dire straits at the moment. And if you start if you start calling out groups of people, and why did you call out them and not this
Mhm,
group and this, and so
mhm.
I would just like, both for us now and then for when people see this, hear this, when it comes out, I would just like to ask um, for your prayers and your energy toward everyone who is anxious right now because of the state of the world. And my prayer, my wish for you, for all those people, is that you will first be comforted, and second, that you will be blessed with wisdom to know what to do to take care of yourself during these difficult times.
John, I couldn't have said it better. That's absolutely perfect. Do you have anything that you would like to add since we've made it through our list of questions?
I'm surprised I didn't talk for the whole time on the first question, but no, we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about, and
We can circle
um,
back.
oh, we brought this to a nice conclusion, so this is a good place to stop.
That's wonderful. John, thank you so much for being here. And like I said, folks, we're going to have all those links down there in the description so that you can connect with John if you would like to, so that you can investigate the wonderful classes that he offers. And having sat firsthand in his classes in person, I cannot recommend them enough. There has never once been a time that I sat in a class by John Beckett and didn't walk away with a fistful of clenched notes that I could not wait to share with my students and say, I saw this really smart person and he said this and he said this and he said this. John just has this amazing mastery of words that allows him to convey very succinct and complicated messages, nuanced messages in the simplest sentence. And it's like it's a zip file that goes into your head and unpacks and continues to unpack at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're looking up at the ceiling and think of something else. It's just like this little gift that keeps on giving. So thank you, John. And I'm so glad for every single one of you that was fortunate enough to find this interview and meet John. So we're going to close it and we'll see everybody next time. Take care. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much.